Mikael, Eino, and Josef Gunther, Shadows over the Baltic. Late 1988, early 1989. The Iron Curtain was cracking, but the shadows behind it were still deadly. The first contact. Mikael, Eino received the initial tip in his remote cabin near Savonlinna. A trusted Estonian contact had sent a short, coded message through back channels. A tall man with Soviet papers was moving young women across the Gulf of Finland. Some ended up in Sweden or Norway. Others disappeared into Poland. Mikael sent a single reply to an old acquaintance in West Berlin. Volkov women need eyes in the West. Ein. Josef Gunther read the message in a smoky cafe near the Berlin Wall. He had crossed paths with the quiet Finnish detective years earlier during a cold operation. He respected Eino's moral steel and forest-honed patience. Gunther replied with equal brevity. Understood. Starting in Norway, watch the Baltic. Gunther. The hunt begins. Mikael crossed into Estonia first. In Tallinn, he moved like a shadow through the old town, listening to the forbidden songs of the singing revolution at night while tracking leads during the day. He found the first traces in a smoky dockside bar. A frightened barmaid whispered about a tall Russian who paid well for quiet introductions to young singers and dancers. Mikael met Gunther weeks later in a discreet safe house outside Malmö, Sweden. The two men sat across from each other with strong coffee and maps spread on the table. Gunther spoke first, his voice low and gravelly. I picked up the trail in Oslo, 3 girls missing from bars near the port. Witnesses described the same man, tall, thin smile, expensive coat. He uses old NKVD contacts. Calls himself Volkov now, but he was NKVD in the 50s. Deportations, executions. The kind of man who enjoyed his work. Mikael nodded slowly, his eyes hard. In Tallinn they say he takes them to Poland, some for Western markets, some for old comrades who still have money. He burns the ones who fight back. Reminds me of the lost children I searched for after the wars. Gunther studied the Finn for a moment. You still carry that grief like a second skin. I respect it, but grief won't stop him. We will. Mikael allowed a faint, cold smile. The forest taught me patience, Major, and when to strike. Convergence in Poland. They met again in Gdansk in early 1989. The city was alive with solidarity tension. Factories were on strike. The old order was crumbling, but the criminals were thriving in the chaos. The two detectives sat in a small, dimly lit cafe near the shipyards. Outside, snow fell softly. Gunther slid a folder across the table. Volkov is here. Warehouse near the port. 6 girls tonight. He's moving them west before the borders get any softer with this EU talk. Mikael read the notes carefully. He was involved in the deportations in the Baltics in the 40s and 50s. Some of these girls are daughters of men he once sent to Siberia. The cycle never ends. Gunther leaned forward, his voice low. You've lost people to monsters like him. I've buried friends because of men who thought they were untouchable. Tonight we remind him that some debts still get paid. Mikael met his eyes. I don't enjoy killing, Major, but some men don't deserve to breathe the same air as the innocent. Gunther nodded. Then we make sure he doesn't. The warehouse. The confrontation in the warehouse was swift and merciless. Volkov and his men were loading the terrified girls into a truck when the two detectives struck. Mikael moved like the forest guardian he had become, silent, precise. He took down 2 guards with quiet efficiency. Gunther was the hammer. He entered like the soldier he had always been, delivering justice with cold finality to the worst offenders. Volkov himself tried to run. Gunther caught him. You sold women like cattle, the major said, pressing a gun to the man's head. You burned girls who fought back. You thought the new Europe would protect you. Volkov sneered. The world doesn't care about a few missing whores. Mikael stepped out of the shadows, his voice quiet but filled with decades of buried rage. I care. The forest remembers every lost soul. Tonight it takes one more. The monster did not survive the night. Aftermath. In the weeks that followed, the network was badly damaged. Several key players were arrested in Poland and Denmark after anonymous evidence reached honest officers. A few simply vanished. Mikael and Gunther met one last time on the Danish coast, watching the lights of Sweden across the water. Gunther lit a cigarette. You did good work, Eino. Not many men have the stomach for what we just did. Mikael stared at the dark sea. I thought I had buried that part of me after Eino, but some evils wake the old bear. I do not regret it. Gunther nodded. The wall is cracking. When it falls, men like Volkov will try to find new shadows. We'll be waiting. The two old warriors shook hands and disappeared into the night, one returning to his Finnish forests, the other to the long shadow of the Berlin Wall. The monsters never truly died. But for a while at least, the Baltic breathed a little easier.